This story takes place in a place called English Bluff, which is on the traditional territory of the Tsawwassen First Nation. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the Indigenous people of Tsawwassen for taking such good care of this land since time immemorial. It's also part of the land that I call my home for most of my life. Way up high on the bluff, there is a pair of eagles that have built a nest. The same pair, a mom and a dad, return every year to raise their young. Usually one, sometimes two. This one particular year in 1999 was a very special year. From our house on the bluff, we could see that they had hatched 3 baby eaglets. The mom and the dad kept very busy bringing back food to the nest. Usually it was fish, but sometimes they needed to catch other birds, like ducks or mergansers. One afternoon, we noticed they had caught a red-tailed hawk and brought it back to the nest. We knew it was a red-tailed hawk for sure when some of the feathers fell down to our lawn and we recognized them. This was unusual for eagles to catch one. Red-tailed hawks are smaller, faster, and more agile. As the 3 eaglets grew, they were hopping all around the giant nest because they hadn't yet learned to fly. And then we noticed something very strange. A 4th baby eaglet had appeared, but it was much, much smaller. A runt, perhaps? But as it grew, we knew it was different. It stayed about 1/3 of the size, and its coloring was very different. Even its cry, which should have sounded like an eagle's, was really different. It sounded like a hawk. This new eaglet wasn't an eagle at all. It was actually a red-tailed hawklet that somehow ended up in this nest. The mom and dad loved it and raised it as their own. One windy day, when the parents were out looking for food, the eaglets were testing their wings because they hadn't learned to fly yet. Somehow, the little hawklet got knocked off the nest. He hung on to the bottom of the nest, and then eventually he let go and had his miraculous first flight down to the ground. We were lucky enough to just have come outside at that moment to check on them, and we saw all of this happen. We raced in our car down to the land below at the bottom of the bluff. And there he was, looking quite confused, but probably pretty proud of his first flight. We phoned OWL, which is short for Orphaned Wildlife Rehabilitation Society, who came quickly in their rescue van to help. They brought him to their rehabilitation center in Ladner, where they took care of him for 1.5 years. They fed him and they fixed his broken wing and eventually released him into the fields of Ladner, where he's probably still flying around today. We were asked to name him, this confused little hawk who thought he was an eagle. So we called him Hawkle, part hawk and part eagle. We still wonder how he got there. He was either laid in their nest as an egg or brought there as a baby. And they took care of him and raised them as one of their own. Hawkle had a lot of things that weren't really going his way, but he can teach us a lot about perseverance and determination. Those are 2 big words that mean you don't give up when it's hard. What's even more amazing is that this isn't the only time this has happened. Recently, some stories out of a place called Sydney, BC, over on Vancouver Island, have documented 2 different times when this takes place. It's easy to find if you search hawk in eagle's nest, where you can see some real video footage of the hawk and the eagles living together. I hope you've enjoyed learning about Hawkle, and I challenge you to make your own story from loose parts. I'd love to see it. And remember, keep your eyes open. You never know what amazing story is just waiting for you to discover.